and static fire. Both engines look great, and the rocket is healthy for flight today. So let's take a closer look at the vehicle that will launch the GPS-3 satellite. On your screen is a view of Space Launch Complex 40 with Falcon 9, our two-stage liquid-fueled launch vehicle getting ready for liftoff. Falcon 9 stands 229 feet or 70 meters tall, which is slightly taller than a 21-story building. The bottom two-thirds of the vehicle is a brand new first stage. Its job is to accelerate the vehicle all the way to the edge of space, where it will drop off the second stage carrying the payload. Tonight we will be attempting to recover the first stage on our drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You, and there you can see it on your screen right there in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. What's really exciting is that this specific booster is planned to support the GPS-3 mission next year, which will be the first time that the U.S. Space Force has agreed to fly a flight-proven booster. About 2.5 minutes into flight, the first and second stage will separate, and the second stage will ignite its single Merlin vacuum engine to carry the GPS satellite to a highly elliptical orbit. Separation from second stage will occur approximately 4,000 kilometers above Earth, and then the satellite will perform berms to raise its position to enter a circular MEO, or medium Earth orbit, and reach an apogee of approximately 20,200 kilometers above Earth. An apogee is basically just the furthest point from Earth, or the highest point that the satellite will reach in orbit. Inside of that structure on your screen, this is at the very top of the rocket, is where the GPS-3 satellite sits. And that structure is what we call the payload fairing, which is about 17 feet or 5 meters in diameter. And then the fairing halves to save some weight as the second stage continues with the satellite to its targeted drop-off. To our recovery boats, we will be attempting to pick these halves up out of the water using our recovery vessel, Miss Chief, today. And there is Miss Chief on your screen, heading to the pickup zone. The large trusted structure next to Falcon 9 is the transporter erector.
The team then began loading propellant at T-minus 35 minutes. We load the propellants as close to launch as possible in order to keep them cold, both the first and second stage. This allows us to make the second stage like a shorter version of the first stage, and this is a refined form of kerosene known as RP1. Our oxidizer is super chill liquid oxygen called LOX. I mentioned keeping the propellants cold. We chill the liquid oxygen as cold as we can get it, allowing us to load more into the booster. Now currently the second stage is fully loaded with RP1 fuel, and the first stage continues loading for another minute. Liquid oxygen is also loading on both the first and second stages right now. We're also loading helium into storage vessels on the Merlin engines. That heats the helium up, and as it expands, we use it to fill the empty volume in the propellant tanks that's created as the engine pumps pull the propellant out of the stages. Now, you just may have heard a moment ago, we're inside of 7 minutes. We have begun engine chill seconds as part of the ignition sequence of the Merlin engines. The spacecraft team has transitioned the GPS payload to internal battery power, occurring just as we came on the air at T-minus 13 minutes. That is their last major activity required before launch. Currently, the range is green, ready to support. The weather, the only thing we've really been watching is the ground winds. They've been marginal, but for the moment, everything continues to look good. We've got about 17 miles an hour from the east. That's within limits. Now, if we do have to call a hold on today's launch, we have a backup opportunity tomorrow with liftoff time scheduled a few minutes earlier at 6:20 p.m. Eastern Time. Now all systems continue to be go for a liftoff just past 6:24 p.m. Eastern Time.
As we mentioned earlier, today's mission is for the U.S. Space Force launching the GPS-3 Space Vehicle 4 payload. Now we'll hear from the Air Force's Lieutenant Colonel Margaret Sullivan and Lockheed Martin's Tanya Ladwig for more information on tonight's payload.
We use GPS every day.
Today, everyone has GPS technology in their pocket.
It's 25 years of space-based position, navigation, and timing, supporting the entire world.
GPS. Wide. generation of GPS satellites, with our GPS-3 following.
The brand new United States Space Force owns this premier asset and provides this position, navigation, and timing service to everyone.
We're currently less than 4 minutes from liftoff. Everything continues to be go for launch. What we're watching right now is the strongback is off. Hydraulics will move the strongback the rest of the way back about 45 degrees from the rocket. Now, first stage fuel loading did complete at T-minus 6 minutes.
Strongback retracted.
We're continuing to wait for first stage liquid oxygen load to finish up in about half a minute here, followed a minute later by second stage completion. Now, a minute before liftoff, you'll hear the announcement Falcon 9 is in startup. That means the rocket's own internal computers are controlling the launch countdown on the rocket. Once the engines are confirmed to be at full power, the flight computer on the second stage will then command the ground hold downs to release the rocket right at T0. The satellite team continues to monitor status and health of the GPS-3 located inside the fairing that you can see on the screen.
Verification.
And right now, all systems are go on the satellite. The range is green for launch.
Close out.
And we have, it sounds like in the background, we heard that stage 1 lock closeout complete, so we're on time. And the good news is the weather is looking good still. Ground winds don't have a launch today. We have a backup opportunity tomorrow with liftoff time scheduled 4 minutes earlier than tonight. But right now at 2 minutes and 20 seconds and counting, everything continues to go well. Waiting now to hear stage 2 LOX load completion.
Stage 2 locks close out.
T-minus a minute, 51 seconds, and we've heard the stage 2 LOX loadout call. We're now, since we're finished loading liquid onto the Falcon 9, and as we do that, we'll vent off pressure, and that'll create the large white cloud that you see around the strongback and maybe the rocket, depending how the wind's blowing. That's nominal. That's what you see right there. That's just us bringing everything back down the line as we're closing out propellant and pressure loading on the Falcon 9. Next activity, we're waiting for the call out that Falcon 9 is in startup.
Falcon 9's in startup.
There it is. Computers have taken over the Falcon 9. We're pressurizing first and second stage tanks for launch. Waiting for final go.
The mission director, stage go for launch. Flight.
Mission director has given the go for flight. Everything continues to look good. Pressurizing the tanks one final time here to get ready for liftoff. But right now at T-minus 30 seconds and counting, all systems are go for the launch of Falcon 9 with GPS-3 space vehicle number 4.
T-minus 15 seconds.
Falcon 9's configured for flight.
10, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff. Go Falcon. Go GPS.
Vehicle is pitching downrange.
Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
Seconds into flight, propulsion says the Merlin 1D engines are nominal. We're on trajectory and preparing to throttle down in preparation for maximum dynamic pressure. And we're heading into the throttle bucket as we power down the Merlin engines. And throttling back up now. And when the engine's back up at full power,
supersonic.
And we have gone past Mach 1. Waiting now for max Q call out.
The vehicle is experiencing maximum aerodynamic pressure.
Guidance engineer reports we're passing through the period of maximum aerodynamic pressure called max Q. From here on, as the speed picks up, the atmospheric density decreases and the loads are reduced on the Falcon 9 vehicle. Propulsion power continues to look good. The trajectory looks good.
MVAC engine chill started.
The engine chill in call out on the MVAC second stage engine indicates we've begun chilling that turbopump like we did with the first stage engines, getting ready for ignition of the upper stage engine. Now coming up in just over 30 seconds, the usual 3-sequence event that'll happen in rapid succession. Main engine cutoff will shut down the 9 Merlin 1D engines you can see glowing there in the night sky. Stage separation, and then we'll get startup of the second stage engine. Nice view from the ground camera looking up at the 9 Merlin 1D engines on the business end of the Falcon 9 first stage.
Stage separation confirmed.
MVAC startup.
So we've had a good separation. MVAC up on power. On the left screen, the first stage continuing to coast downrange as it begins to deploy those large titanium grid fins. Trajectory continues to look right down the middle.
Both stages are following nominal trajectories.
Guidance confirms we're on nominal trajectory with both stages.
Acquisition of signal, Maryland.
Maryland reports they've got signal from the second stage. Next event coming up is payload fairing separation.
Separation confirmed.
A nice view from the camera looking forward. The GPS-3 satellite with the 2 payload fairing halves separating. Everything continuing to go well on this mission. 3 minutes and 42 seconds into flight. First stage continuing to coast to apogee, headed downrange. Second stage engine at full power. Everything's looking good with the MVAC engine. Right now, trajectory heading us to where the Bermuda ground station can hear us. We've heard the call out, acquisition of signal. Bermuda now getting the telemetry from the Falcon 9 second stage. So 4 minutes, 8 seconds into flight, everything going well on the flight of Falcon 9 with GPS-3.
Both stages continue to follow nominal trajectories.
And at T plus 4 minutes and 20 seconds, we're currently in the first of 2 planned MVAC burns. And we just passed T plus 4 minutes and 23 seconds, and that's actually when the first stage reaches apogee of 120 kilometers, almost 400,000 feet. At stage separation, the first stage velocity is about 2,200 meters per second, or 5,000 miles per hour. So right after stage separation, the first stage, still moving at such a high velocity, continues to raise its altitude as it coasts for a couple of minutes. Basically, the first stage almost doubles its altitude from stage separation, which occurred at about 69 kilometers or 226,000 feet, to when it reaches apogee, and then it starts its return back to Earth. And again, apogee is the highest point, or the furthest that it is away from Earth in the trajectory of the first stage. Now, the next major milestone that you'll be able to see on your screen is the first stage's entry burn. For the entry burn, we relight the center E9 engine, and then partway through, we relight the E1 and E5 engines so that we have a total of 3 M1D engines, helping to slow the vehicle down as it passes back into the Earth's atmosphere. We're just about 40 seconds away from that entry burn beginning. Today's entry burn should last about 27 seconds long.
Both stages continue to follow nominal trajectories.
And you heard that call out that both stages are looking good. T plus 6 minutes. We're about 20 seconds away from that entry burn on first stage. And it is nighttime over there on the East Coast, so hard to see that first stage on the left-hand screen, but once entry burn begins, it should light up that screen. We should be able to see first stage pretty well.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
And there's that entry burn starting up.
Stage FTS is saved. Stage 1.
You could see the plume started off small and it got a little larger, and that is because we started with one single engine and added a couple engines for a total of 3 for this entry burn.
Stage 1 entry burn shut down.
And that concludes the entry burn. Next up, we do have a couple major milestones happening back to back. The start of the landing burn for first stage, followed immediately afterwards by SECO 1 on second stage. And SECO, which stands for second engine cutoff, is where we shut down the MVAC engine to allow the second stage to coast, which preserves the fuel until we need it for the final burn to take us to our targeted orbit for the GPS-3 satellite. Then about 25 seconds.
Cape, stage 1 expected.
Then about 25 seconds after SECO 1, we'll hopefully have a nice view of the first stage touching down on, of course, I Still Love You. And there's that drone ship on your left-hand screen.
Stage 2 has entered terminal guidance.
Stage 1 transonic.
Just about 20 seconds away from those two events. Again, the landing burn, followed by SECO 1 on second stage, just a couple seconds after that landing burn begins.
Stage 2 FTS is saved.
Stage 1 landing burn. And SECO.
There we've had SECO, waiting for confirmation of good orbit as first stage returns to Earth.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy.
Nominal parking orbit.
There's good orbit, and at the same time, we have touchdown of our Falcon 9 on, of course, I Still Love You. And again, that did happen at the same time, so we did have SECO and good orbit of our second stage.
2 expected.
And there you can see on your left-hand screen, first stage landed on, of course, I Still Love You. This marks the 16th Falcon 9 landing just this year and the 64th of all time. And we're looking forward to seeing this booster take its second flight on the next GPS mission next year. Now, the second stage vehicle has now entered its first coast phase, which will last about 54 minutes, and we will light that MVAC engine for a second time shortly after T plus 1 hour and 3 minutes. So we're going to take a quick break, and as always, we leave you with an animation so that you can keep an eye on where that second stage is throughout the coast phase. So we'll see you back here at T plus 1 hour and 2 minutes.